All right, what I've decided to do is instead of going through the study guide question by question, I would look at each individual topic as a video. So the first one is going to be significant figures. And the first thing that you have to do with significant figures is be able to count the number of significant figures in a measurement. And there's 4 rules. Rule number 1, non-zeros always count. Rule number 2, leading zeros never count. Leading zeros never count. A leading zero is one that comes in front of the first non-zero integer. You're most likely to see them in decimal values like this. These zeros are leading zeros. They don't count. Third rule, captive zeros. They count. A zero is captive when it comes between 2 non-zero integers. All of these zeros are captive. That 0 is captive between the 3 and the 9. And both of those zeros are captive because they're stuck between the 9 and the 7. And again, captive zeros always count. And then number 4, trailing zeros. They count only if you have a decimal point. They can be in front of or behind the decimal point. What makes them trailing is the fact they come after the last non-zero. So those are trailing zeros because they come after the 3, the last non-zero in the number. And those are trailing because they come after the 7. Doesn't matter what side of the decimal point they're on. That's not what makes them trailing. What makes them trailing is that they come after the last non-zero number. Now the first thing you have to do is count significant figures. So I give you a number like 307,000. And you need to count how many significant figures it has. Well, you know the 3 and the 7 are going to be significant because those are non-zeros. Non-zeros are always significant. The question is, what are the zeros? Well, this is a captive zero. And according to rule, captive zeros count. It's captive between the 3 and the 7. So that's a significant figure. These zeros are trailing. And the rule for trailing is they count if there's a decimal point. And this number has no decimal point in it, so they don't count. This number has 3 significant figures. So this number, again, we know the 1 and the 7 are going to be significant figures because by rule, non-zeros count. Now the question are the zeros. I have those zeros. Those are leading. They all come in front of the 1, the first non-zero. Leading zeros never count, so we won't count those. This 0 is stuck between the 1 and the 7, so it's captive. And by rule, captive zeros count. And then those zeros, those are trailing. They come after the 7, the last non-zero. So those are trailing. By rule, they count if you have a decimal point, and we have a decimal point right there. So they count. That number has 5 significant figures.